Right? Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Excellent. You see that people are excited today. The sun outside is bringing a lot of energy here. All right, so welcome everyone. We continue our lectures this Sunday, and today Teresa Torres will talk about alms, but give what you have to the poor from Jesus, right? But as usual, we're going to start with our a reading and a prayer. Rafael will going to do it for us, and just after Teresa will start the lecture. Okay, for those who's watching us through the internet, welcome. And if you have any question, any comment at the end, please feel free to use the chat. And Marcos Nicolay is there, ready to answer and help and be your voice here in TSS. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
So this is the reading from the book Our Daily Bread, Chico Xavier by the Spirit of Emmanuel. To contribute. Each man should give what he has decided in his heart to give, not reluctantly or under compulsion, for God loves a cheerful giver. When the affirmation given by Paul was divulged, informing that God loves a cheerful giver, many people solely remember the material charity. Praise, however, was not only circumscribed to generous hands that distribute small donations of goodness to the needy and to those in pain. Naturally, all these demonstrations of love are recognized as divine, but we should note that the verb to contribute referred to in the current lesson appears in all its grandeur. Cooperation and righteousness, it's a palpitating matter every day and everywhere. Any individual is capable of supplying. Every individual is capable of supplying it. It is not only the beggar who waits for it, but also the cradle where all experience is renewed, the family in which we purify our virtuous accomplishments, our neighbor, our brother in humanity, and the workplace which signals our own individual achievements in our daily efforts. At the moment of our nocturnal rest, each heart can question itself regarding the quality of the collaboration in service, in the conversation, in the affectionate relationships, and in this or that preoccupation of everyday life. Let us be cautious of sadness and sterilizing shadows. It will complaints, dissatisfaction, and frivolities are not integrated in the kind of labor that the Lord expects from our activities in the world. Let us mobilize our resources optimistically, not forgetting that the Father loves the child that contributes with happiness. So now, I'll invite you all to close your eyes, to breathe deeply and relax your bodies. Let's forget for a moment our problems from outside, and let's feel the presence of our discarnate brothers, our mentors, and our Master Jesus here with us today. Let's thank our Lord for the opportunity to be gathered here one more Sunday in this house of light, where we receive all these blessings and involve our bodies, our perispirits, bringing harmony and peace to our hearts. We ask you, Lord, to bless our speaker today, Teresa, so that we can all learn a little bit more of this wonderful doctrine that brings us so much warmth in our hearts. Thank you, and so be it.
Okay. Okay. Just 1 second. So good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
And I would like to thank all my TSS friends, incarnated and discarnated, to give me the opportunity of being here today, presenting this lecture. And I chose, so the month is Chico Xavier and Emmanuel, and I choose a passage or a lesson or a chapter from the book Living Spring. And this book to me is a very special book because that's how I learned how to be a Spiritist. So over 30 years ago, when I was 2 years old, and I already could read, that's exactly how I learned about. That's actually how I learned how to study the gospel, according to the Spiritism, was through this book for many, many years. And then eventually I started to read Kardec's books and everything. And to this day is the book that I used to do my gospel at home. And that's actually how this chapter came to me and said, okay, you know what? This is a good chapter to do. It was during my gospel at home. And then I opened up and I saw this chapter and I said, okay, that's how my next lecture is going to be. It's going to be about Alms. And through the lecture, you're going to see that there's another 2 chapters from the same book that are connected, and also by chance, as we know, chance doesn't exist. They kind of all came to me, and I put together this lecture. So today I'm here just to share a little bit of what I studied and what I understood from these chapters. So the chapter is called Alms, and it's talk about the little part of the gospel and that says, but give what you have to the poor. And that's a phrase that Jesus said, and this is in Luke, and actually you can find this in some of the other gospels as well. So let's first talk about what's alms. So if we look at the dictionary tells us that alms is money or goods given to those in need as an act of charity. So, did something happen there? Okay. So that's very easy for us to understand as an alm, right? So alm is something that I give to someone to help them. So when we walking down the street and there's the homeless asking for money and we reach in our pocket and give a few coins to them, that's alms. That's what we're giving some goods and money or goods to help someone. However, as we say, this is a Spiritist lecture, so of course we're talking about something that goes beyond that. We're going to talk about a different kind of alms. That's what actually Emmanuel tries to bring us in this lesson. But what I like about this lesson is that right to start, the first thing that Emmanuel tells us, and he states very clear, is this. The charity is sublime in every aspect. Under no circumstances should we forget the wonderful selflessness of those who distribute bread, clothing, medicine, and assistance for the body, learning solidarity and teaching it. So I like that he starts like that, because what he's saying is, I'm going to talk about a different type of alm, but at the end of my chapter here, I want you to understand that this kind of a charity is important as well, and it is a charity. Because then we can also go to the other side. Oh, giving something material is not important. I should just give this other kind of alm, right? And it's not. He states very clear, this is charity, and this is important, and that's a way for us to practice our solidarity and to teach it around with our actions, because we know we're contaminating people around us with our actions, okay? So stating this very clear, now we're going to talk about the kind of alms that Emmanuel is trying to pass to us. So first thing that Emmanuel is trying to state to us is something very clear. The difference between to have and to possess or to keep. And if we go back to the first, my first slide, we're going to see, give from what you have. And that's a key word for us to understand the 2 types of alms that we're going to be, well, I'm going to be specifically talking about one, but for us to understand the difference about the 2 kinds of alms that we have. So what Emmanuel brings to us is that everything that we think we have, such as clothing, money, house, the chairs we're sitting right now, my computer, this control, anything that's material around us, in this planet, and in the whole universe, we do not have them. Okay? So the house that you already paid for, the bank that you don't want any penny from the bank and say, oh, it's mine. It's not. It's lended to us. So Emmanuel states very clear that wealth and authority are temporary possessions that we keep on our journey, and that in the essential foundations of life, they do not belong to us. So basically, when I'm giving something, when I'm being charitable with something material that I have, I'm not giving from what I have. I'm giving from what I keep or I temporarily possess. And if it doesn't belong to us, then who it belongs to? Very simple. So Emmanuel tells us, the owner of all the power and wealth in the universe, not in this room, not in this planet, in the universe, is God, our Creator and Father, who lends them to men and women according to their merits and necessities, right? So we already know through other studies in the Spiritism that that's why there's difference, right? Where there are some people who were born poor, some people are born rich, some people are like middle class, some people, I don't know, difference of bodies, health, and everything, because it's given to us, including this body, according to our merits and necessities. So depending what we are here for in this incarnation, okay? But those are only things that we keep. We keep them temporarily, and they don't belong to us. We cannot say, I have, it's mine. So that's what Emmanuel now wants to bring us to a different level of alms. Okay, so if Jesus is telling me to, but give it from what you have, and now I realize that I don't have my money, I don't have my clothes, I don't have any of the things material, what do I really have? Because if those are the only things that I keep, then what do I have that I can give, right? So what Emmanuel is trying to bring is we need to start to give from what we have, which means we need to start to give from what's our inner self. And it brings some questioning to us in this chapter. So we start to question us. What do we have of ourselves to give? What kind of emotions are we communicating to others? What are we giving to our brothers and sisters of daily struggle? What's the stockpile of our sentiments? What kind of vibrations are we emitting? So those are the questions that we need to question ourselves to realize what are we actually giving on a daily basis from what we have. And those are the questions also that's going to ask us, make us asking ourselves and say, what do I actually have to give, right? Because the same thing, I cannot donate $1,000 if I only have 100 in my bank, can I? No, I can't. I only can give from what I have. I cannot donate 3 shirts if I only own 2. I only can donate from what I keep, in this case, right? So it's the same thing. So what do we have that's from ours that we really have to give? Do I have patience to give? Do I have tolerance, compassion, love? What kind of emotions am I emitting to everybody around me? I'm the person that's angry every day and and every time I go to work and I'm moody, I don't talk to anybody, and I go work, or at the end of my day I go home and every day I'm stressed and I'm nervous and I blow up with everybody, right? And because that's what I'm giving. That's what I'm giving to people around me. And that doesn't mean that we need to be, like, nobody here is going to be smiling every single day. But in general, what kind of emotions I have inside me? Because I cannot bring a peace to a place if I don't have a peace inside me. I cannot give love if I don't have love inside me. So we need to have something inside to give, because those are the things that we're giving that's from ours, from what we have. Because those are the feelings that no matter if I'm here incarnated, incarnated, they are with me. They will stay with me. This body will gonna go away. Everything material that I possess is gonna go away. But what I have inside me is mine. And that's why we can say, I have it. Because it will go with me no matter where I go. Right? Incarnated, this planet, the next planet, it doesn't matter. Right? So that's very important to think. So what's my stockpile of sentiments that I have on my day by day? Because that's going to tell me what kind of vibration I'm emitting. Because I don't know any single case of someone who comes to a room and is super irritated and angry, and I say, oh my gosh, the person is super irritated, but I feel such a good energy coming from this person. I know he's irritated, but the energy is coming, it makes me feel so peaceful. Have someone been in that situation? Because I haven't, right? So depending what kind of emotions I bring inside me, that's exactly what I'm going to vibrate to people around. And we contaminate people. We contaminate people the same way we can contaminate people with our love, with our peace, with our goodwill. We can contaminate people with our bad mood. We can contaminate people with our anger and everything, right? So what am I giving to my brothers and sisters of daily struggle? Am I giving them my forgiveness? Sometimes it's good already, right? When they come to me angry about something, I just go there and, like, as we say in Portuguese, put more fire and more logs in the fire and say, oh yeah, you're right, you should be angry, you should go there. Or we trying to bring to them from inside a little bit of peace and calmness and say, hey, I know what this person did to you was really good, but you know what? Think on the side. It's not worth it. Look at the energy that you're spending. Maybe, that's what we're giving. What we give to them, what we give to our families when we come to home. That's giving from what we have. And after I did prepared this lecture and read all these chapters, I found out one thing. That giving from what we keep is the easiest thing on earth, even if you're the most selfish person. But giving from what you have is very difficult. And it's very difficult for one reason, because to give from what we have requires inner transformation. And that's what we're all here for, right? In the bottom line, we're all here to do our inner transformation. On every single incarnated life, on every single discarnated period that we are, that's what we're all here for, to work on our inner transformation. It's super easy, right? We are almost there, right? Just a little bit more and we're all transformed, right? So it's very hard. It's very hard to do it, okay? But there's a piece of good news. It's very hard. It is. Well, on this passage of chapter 130 from Living Spring, it's called In the Inner Sphere. And it talks about a passage from Peter that says, let each one of us serve others with the gift we have received as good stewards of the multiform grace of God. And I want to point it out that he says here, each one of us. He doesn't say, let us, the ones who have received, to help. Because then it would mean some of us received and should give, and some of us didn't. He doesn't. He states very clear, each one of us serve with the gift that we have received. And that means that we all have received something inside of us. And we know that God created us all equal. He didn't create different creatures, like, oh, I'm going to create you a little bit more. No, he created us all equal. We, with our own choices and free will, kind of in different ways, but we all have exactly the same potentials inside of us. So absolutely every single human being in this planet, incarnated or discarnated, has something to give from what we have. Every single one. That's what Peter is stating in here. It can be as small as can be, but we all have it. We all have something. Maybe my patience is this big, but once in a while I'm willing to use it and give it. That's okay. Some people have a patience this big. But you know what? Maybe my patience is this big, but my compassion is this, and this person has this patience this big, the compassion is this. So we all have something to give. We all have. No matter how small it is, we all have something to give. And that's what we have to remember. We have, because I'm not patient, I have nothing inside me, I'm just a bad person. There's no such a thing as a bad person. Meaning I'm a 100% bad person. Okay? And even if theoretically I was 100% bad person, the potential to become a good person is all inside there. No matter how much I choose to do the wrong, the potential to do the good is still inside of us and will never ever go away. Even if I spend millions of years choosing to do the wrong. The day that I decided, as a immortal spirit, the day that I decide that, you know what, now I want to start to do something good, I just get the potential that's inside me and I start to work on it. No exceptions. That's what Peter is stating us. There's no exceptions. And that's actually exactly what Emmanuel brings to us on this chapter. He says, no one's useless. None are so poor that they cannot give of themselves. That's what Emmanuel brings to us in this passage. Talking about that called in the inner sphere. No one is useless. None. None are so poor. Which means that no matter how tiny little bit is that amount of goodness that you have inside of you, that's amazing. And that can be used. Okay? And then on the next, on another chapter from the same book, The Living Spring, it's called, What Do You Have? And again, have. Okay? That's very key here. And this passage talks about the passage, how many loaves do you have? And they said to him, 7. And that's a very well-known passage of the gospel when Jesus is walking in the desert for 3 days and he has a multitude of people following him. And actually you have this passage described pretty much on 4 gospels. And each one kind of give you different numbers. Some of them said there's 4,000 people following, and the other one says 5,000. Some would say that they had 7 bread, 7 loaves. Some say they had 5, and some say they had just a few fish. Some say they had 3 fishes. Bottom line is, he had thousands and thousands of people following him in the desert for 3 days. And got to one point that these people were starving, hunger. They were probably very close to dehydration because that's the desert. And got to one point where they had to feed these people because these people could not go back home 3 more days walking back. And they probably would go, most of them would perish on the way back. And that's the moment when Jesus says, how many loaves do you have to the apostles? The apostle says, hey, we have this little bit of bread, we have this little bit of fish. And as we know, then Jesus multiplied and all 4,000 to 5,000 people got fed. Okay? So let's go back a little bit on this passage, right? We as the Spiritists know that Jesus was not talking about, not necessarily only about physical feeding here, right? We know he was talking about something else, feeding the spirits of those 4,000 people that was there and needed some food. So basically what happened is, let's think about a little bit of the scenario. So there's 5,000 people, let's take the higher number, makes more powerful. So 5,000 people walking for 3 days in the desert, And they were probably so desperate to get this knowledge from Jesus, they didn't even thought about, I'm going to walk for 3 days in the desert. I have to walk these 3 days back. I should bring some food and some water with me. No, they just followed Jesus. Okay. The apostles were used to go with Jesus, were smarter. So they thought, you know what, well, 3 days. Okay, so let's have some bread, for 3 days, some fishes and water. Okay, beautiful. Okay, so they all prepared. So the good campers, right? They used to go camping. Okay, let's go. So after 3 days, Jesus and the apostles noticed there was a problem, right? So they all noticed there's 5,000 people here. These people is already exhausted, starving. The apostles look and say, "Oh, we have enough for us here. Yeah, we have enough for us and Jesus, but there's 5,000 people here. Yeah, wow, it's a problem here. How we feed these people? Because these people have to walk 3 days back. They're gonna perish in the way, but well, we only have enough for us. Nothing we can do." Okay, so they come up with a solution to the problem. Jesus also looked to the crowd and saw the same problem. There's 5,000 people here. If I let them go home right now, they're gonna perish in the way back. The only problem is that the apostles and Jesus came up with different solutions to the problem. So the apostles thought, you know what? Let's go to the master and say, Master, just disperse everybody. Because they thought, you know what, disperse everybody and each one will solve the problem on their own. So they may find close farms or the closest city and they'll find food on their own on those areas, right? Beautiful. Wait for everybody to leave and then we sit down and we eat because we're prepared, right? There's only one problem. Jesus had a different solution to the problem. So when they went to Jesus and said, Master, you have to disperse these people. They have to go, right? We have nothing to these people. They have to go. And then Jesus looked at them and say, why don't you feed them? Then the apostle thinking, probably look back to the few fish and few bread like, well, we can't quite feed all these people, right? We don't have enough. But imagine the shock that they had when Jesus says, why don't you feed them? Because clearly Jesus already knew how much bread and fish they had. But they're kind of a puzzle. How? And that's the moment when Jesus asked them, how many breads do you have? And they go, well, we have this little bit here, like we don't have much, but that's what we have. And Jesus said, that's okay, give it to me, okay? And that's when Jesus starts to part, and all of a sudden he feeds 5,000 people. And we know that this bread and this fish, this little bread and this little fish, is just a symbology. What Jesus was really asking them is not how many loaves do you have. What Jesus was asking them was, what do you have to give? What Jesus was asking them is, look to this 5,000 people here, and can you show some compassion? Do you have some compassion to give to these people here, to this crowd who have nothing to eat? He was not talking about bread and fish. Someone who took five or seven breads and a few fish and multiply, he probably didn't need the first few fish and bread to start to feed these people anyways, right? But what he wanted to know from them is, do you have something from inside of you to give to this multitude of people that are here? What do you have? Can you show goodwill? Can you show compassion? Because the moment that they thought, you know what, let's disperse all these people and let's make sure that we can eat, they're showing no compassion in there. Nothing. They're just worried about, and I'm not saying this as a way of criticizing it, because if I was in the same situation, I have 7 breads and I have 5,000 people, like, I'm sorry, that's not what I'm doing here. It's absolutely normal to have the reaction that they had, absolutely normal. But Jesus used the opportunity, as in his immense wisdom, said, okay, you know what? I'm gonna teach them a lesson now to my apostles, and to generations to come up to today to us, saying, what do you have? Can you show something? So when they come and say, we just have this little bit of food, is the apostles saying, Master, we don't have a compassion, the size of compassion that you had. But you know what? We are able to show a little bit of compassion because we are still so small that we don't even understand the kind of compassion that you have. But we're willing to give a little bit. We're willing to show a little bit of the compassion that we have. We're willing to share a little bit of the goodwill that are inside us. And that's the moment that Jesus then multiplied the bread and the fish. Because what he's really multiplying is not the bread and the fish. What he's multiplying is the goodwill and the compassion that the apostles showed at that moment. Because they could say, well, we have, but we're not sharing. They could. And they didn't. They said, it's a small, but man, it's here. We're going to share. So that's pretty much what Jesus wanted to tell us is, it doesn't matter if it's very small what you have from you to give. I can multiply if you're willing to give even that little bit. So that's what he multiplied in that day. He multiplied their compassion. He multiplied their goodwill. And then they had enough bread and fish for everybody. So that's what Jesus was trying to tell us, is that I cannot multiply from zero. We have to show something. And mathematics teaches us that. 10 times 0, 0. 100 times 0, 0. You can get the most astronomical number that you want and multiply per 0. The result's going to be always 0. So really what he's trying to us is, I cannot multiply from 0. I cannot make anything grow from 0. So he's saying, show me something from inside of you, and I will multiply that. I will help you. And that little that the apostles thought that was nothing, Jesus saw as a great potential, to the point that was enough to feed 5,000 people. It's the ripple effect. You drop just a drop of water, and you think, oh, it's just a drop of water. And all of a sudden, it makes the whole lake move. That's what he's saying. So what he's trying to tell us is, you don't need to be perfect to give from what you have. You don't need to be a superior spirit to give from what you have. He's saying anyone has something good inside to give. And if you're willing to give even a little bit, it can go a long way. Not only to the people that are around you, but to yourself. Because you know that's giving that we receive, right? That's what he's saying to us. So that's what he's asking us in that passage, really. What do you have? Right? And if you say, he say, how many loaves do you have? He doesn't say how many loaves are you keeping, how many loaves you have. The other thing is, he doesn't ask, how much food do we need? So when you do lunch and learning here, the people that help to prepare lunch and learn, what we worry, okay, how many people do we have? Oh, we have about like 20 people confirmed. So how much food do I need for 20 people? So whoever's preparing the food, or we're having a party at home, okay, I invited 30 people. I don't worry like how much I have. I don't go say, oh, how much food I have at home. No, we think, how much food I need to feed all these people that I invited. He didn't ask them, how much food we need for 5,000 people. He asked how much you have. So he's not asking us, how much could you be? How much good could you have inside of you? He only asks us, how much do you have? Are you willing to share? That's it. I'm not asking you to have the whole package full. Even if you have a little bit at the bottom of your package, it's enough. How much do you have? Not how much we need. Well, we know we need way more than we have, right? Far away from filling that bag in there. But it doesn't matter. He's not asking how much we could have or how much we need, right? He's just asking how much we have. And second question is, are you willing to give from it? Because that's the other thing too. I can have everything inside me and not share. Then it's almost like a wasted potential right there, right? So that's what this passage is actually telling us. And that's exactly what Emmanuel states. He says, can the Christ build the sanctuary of happiness within us and for us if he cannot count on the basis of good in our hearts? So that's exactly what he's saying. Can Jesus build up any happiness or any peaceful life inside of us or for us if we don't have any of that inside of us? Right? And when we go back to the questioning that Emmanuel tells us, that's exactly what it is. How can I give peace if I don't have peace inside me? How can I give compassion if I don't have compassion inside me? How can I give forgiveness if I don't even forgive myself, or if I don't care? I don't forgive anybody, in fact. How can I give from something that I don't care inside me? Right? So we need to create those bases inside of us. And that's called inner transformation. That's why it's so easy. Right? Because it's called inner transformation. One of the hardest tasks that we have here as incarnated spirits is the inner transformation. It's hard as can be. And I'm talking in a personal level here right now. Very, very hard to do that inner transformation. But like I said, the good news is Jesus is not asking for anything big. Any little bit helps in here. Okay? And that's what Emmanuel keeps going, saying God's goodness is infinite. Still, something must emerge from ourself on our behalf. And that's what we always hear in the Spiritism is, we know we have good spirits around us helping us. We know we have our mentors, and some people are called the guardian angels. They're not here to do the job for us, but they're here to help us. And if we show goodwill, they will definitely help us, and they will multiply the goodwill that we have. But we have to show something, because they will not do our job. Neither the good spirits around us, neither Jesus, neither God. It's up to us. It's up to us to show some goodwill. Because although God could transform us all in good people like this, He's not going to do it. We need to have something from ourselves to grow from there. Then we're going to be helped. Then something can grow from there. And then going back to that charity that we're talking about in the beginning, the one that we give from what we keep, there's an interesting detail about that Emmanuel brings us on chapter 60. So the chapter called Alms, Emmanuel states, the charity that fills the stomach, but that never forgets an offense, that never serves personally, or that does not light a torch to banish ignorance, is always limited. And I love this word limited, because now it made me change the way I talk about certain aspects. So when it says when we do our gospel study, there's always one chapter that talks about giving and charity. I think it's called charity, even the chapter, if I'm not wrong, on the gospel. And we always discussing and we say, when someone donates, $2 million to a hospital, but they make sure that there is a platinum plaque on the wall with 3 spotlights on it, because they want to make sure everybody knows that they donated the money. We always say that's not true charity. And what I learned from studying this whole thing is that true charity is not the right concept. Because if I say this is not true charity, it's exactly the same way as saying this is a false charity. Okay? And during my lecture, preparing my lecture, I learned that true or false is not the right word, but limited. That's the right word. Limited. Which means only went halfway. Because when I donate, when I go to an orphanage and the kids are sleeping on the floor, and then I go there and I donate 100 beds, but just because I want everybody to know, just out of vanity, because I want everybody to know that I did, and I think that I'm super nice person, that I am not, then I'm doing out of vanity. So I'm not giving anything from what I have. Actually, I am. I'm giving my vanity, and I think nobody here needs it, right? So I'm giving from something that probably people don't even want to. But from what I keep, it was a charity, wasn't it? Because now there's 100 kids that instead of sleeping on the floor, are sleeping in a bed. And if I was that kid, trust me, you'd be an angel to me. I would pray for you every single night. Because you were like the Virgin Mary herself here on earth. If I was sleeping on the floor and you donated a bed for me, even if it was out of vanity. Okay? So I really like this word limited. And the only way for us charities not to be limited is when we give from what we keep with combined with from what we have, right? So it's when I donate something from what I keep, not out of vanity, but because I truly want to help someone. And I don't need anybody to know it. If it happens that someone knows, it's okay, but I won't on purpose make sure that people know that I did this or I did that, right? It's when I give just really because I really show compassion. Because when I see a situation, I'm able to show some compassion and go and help this person in whatever way I can. Because a lot of times we give from what we keep, but we make sure we humiliate this person before we keep, right? So you don't deserve it because you put yourself in this situation, but I'm going to help you anyways. So I first humiliate this person. You don't deserve it. But me, as such a great person, I'm going to help you. So yeah, maybe I give something from what I keep, but from what I have, what I really gave to this person was humiliation on top of my vanity and my pride on top of it, right? So we need to be a little bit careful even when we giving from what we keep, to do not make our charities limited. And I think a lot of times we do limited. And if it's limited, let's try to make it less limited as we can, as possible, as being so imperfect as we are, right? And now is remember that nobody's so poor, right? Like Peter says, nobody's poor that they have nothing to give. So I may not having anything to give from material, but I may have compassion to give. I may have some love to give, patience or anything, right? So this concept that, because unfortunately for us, is still very in our mind charity as giving from something that's material. And then we have this concept, oh, but I'm so poor, right? Materialistic talk. I cannot help anybody. Yes, we can. We still can help people all the time, anytime, okay? And then I want to bring, to finish, I want to bring in the last aspect of alms, because I was preparing this, even when I read this chapter during my gospel, and then now preparing, and it's so funny, because every time we read about charity and alms and everything, we always think about, oh my gosh, I need to start to give, right? I need to give more. I need to give from what I have. I need to give from what I keep. I need to give. As if I was this being that's up here, right? And I need to share all the goodness that I have with other people. So now let's forget that we're beings like here and being generous, at least with myself, okay? And we need alms as well. Alms is not just about giving. It's about receiving. Because we're still so small in our evolution that we also need alms a lot. But if we don't keep our hearts open to receive it, we won't receive it. As very little evolved people that we are, we still need to receive forgiveness. We still need other people's tolerance. We still other people's compassion. We still need to receive love, goodwill from other people. And a lot of times those alms are given to us, and out of our pride or other things, we brush them off. So we need to be open to receive them, because we're in so much need. That's not even funny, okay? So sometimes we see someone in a situation that they're being extremely patient and tolerant, and what we say, instead of looking to the situation and say, wow, this person's having so much patience and tolerance. You know what? If I were in that situation, I would blow up. So look how this person's, because when I do that, I'm actually receiving this alm from this person, this sample of patience and tolerance that I don't have it. Instead, what we do, we criticize the person because they don't act in the same way, so we criticize them. So what we do, we go, oh, I can't believe this person you're being too patient and too tolerant. I would have just blow up and I would have solved this problem right now. Right there, we got the elm that was coming towards us, and we poof, in the garbage, right? So we really need to have our eyes, our hearts, and our minds open to receive. Because if you really think that we don't need them, that we don't need compassion from other people, if you really think we don't need forgiveness from other people, that we don't need their tolerance, their patience especially, we're in a big trouble. Because that means that our egos are way bigger than we really think it is. We all need it. So let's have our hearts open, not only to give, but let our hearts open to receive. Because that's the only way that we're going to all progress together. Because there's no progression. Although the moral evolution is mine, is individual for each one of us, we only can progress together. So maybe I can learn a little bit more from Marcus' patience, but Marcus can learn from Marcius' tolerance, and I can learn from both of them, and maybe I have something, my goodwill to share, and we all have something little, but that we all can share, and we all can learn from each other. It would be so beautiful if we all share our alms from what we have, because they all can go such a long way, like the apostles did. Right? They have very little, you went a long way. So if you have our hearts open to give, but also to receive, because the 5,000 people, if they're not open to receive, they wouldn't have received it, even though there's people that are willing to share the little bit. So I have to remember that. And it took me, I had to study this lecture to all of a sudden come to my mind, like, wait a second. I could like talking like giving, but I need to receive. I need a lot, so can send me anytime you guys wanna. I'm here to receive, no problem at all. But let's remember that it's not about giving, it's about receiving, because we are in a stage where we all need a lot to give and to receive. And that's why I wanna finish with this phrase. And actually, it's a phrase that it's a known phrase, and it's funny because I want to know who's the author to give the name. And when I Google in Portuguese, it gives me one author. When I Google in English, it gives me another author. I went to the one in Portuguese, but if there's anybody in there that says, no, that phrase is mine, I'll be glad to change, okay? But it says, nobody's so poor that he has nothing to give, and nobody's so rich that he has nothing to receive. And I thought this phrase was just perfect with this lecture. Thank you very much. I can see, right?
No, you cannot.
Okay.
Thanks so much, Teresa. It was a great lecture. We are open for any question or comment. We still have some minutes, so if you do have any question or any comment,
Anything on
please.
internet or?
Yes, we do have a comment from Elisa. Thank you, Elisa, for watching us. And she said she feels when you were talking about also receiving and giving, that it's like a cycle. Like when you give and you receive, and you give and you receive.
True. Because if you have your heart open, I think it's open either to it's one door. So if it's open you can have things coming both ways, right? Even come in. And I think the more you give, probably the easier is to, especially because I think the more we give means the more I'm working on my inner transformation. So it means that I'm more and more getting rid of my selfishness, my pride. And if I get rid of those things, I'm more open to receive as well, right? Because I think most of the time when we're not open to receive is more out of pride. Like, no, I don't need it. I'm okay. I don't need it. I'm fine, right? It's pride. That's what it is, right? To think that I only can donate and I don't need to receive. It's pride. So yeah, keeping the door open, it gives that opportunity to go both ways. Right?
I thought it was really nice when you pointed out the discussion that we had so many times on Wednesday about the kind of charity. And looking at that perspective that they are giving what they possess and not what they have is still a good thing.
Yeah.
And we always try to criticize, say, oh no, that's not good, they're not doing the good.
There's not charity.
There's not charity.
Yeah.
And looking now, it's like, oh my God, who am I to judge in the first place?
Yeah.
What they're doing is always good.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter
Yeah.
what they have inside. That's what they are going to pay when they discard it, not myself. So it was good to have this understanding of what you have and what you possess or what you keep.
Because they're both charity.
Yes.
One's limited and the other is not. And that's why I like to say, oh, that's for limited. I'll never say that's not a true charity. For now, I say that's limited charity. That's what it's limited. That's what it is.
But it's a good
Right?
explanation to show like what you define as limited, because you're giving what you possess or you have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
That
exactly.
That was like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, now makes sense.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No. See, everybody should everything. Everybody's smart. I have a smart crowd. That's great.
All right, if there is no other question or comments, we're gonna start preparing for ourselves for the passes. We thank everyone who's watching us through the internet. We're gonna disconnect now, and thank you again.